I want to tell you folks here in Texas that we're not going to stay in Vietnam forever. We're not going to continue to kill hundreds of American servicemen. And I want to tell the North Vietnamese this: if you're waiting until after the election and think you might get a better deal with the American Independent Party, you are mighty mistaken. You better go ahead and settle now, because you're not going to get any better deal after November 5th. And I say that if we do not bring the war to a halt honorably in Paris, then we've lost politically and diplomatically, and there's only one recourse, and that recourse is military. And I'm going to call upon the Joint Chiefs of the military to bring a military conclusion to the war with conventional weapons and bring the American servicemen back home to Texas and our country where they belong.
Well, as I said a moment ago, that third-party candidate, Hubert Humphrey, may get enough electoral votes to throw the election into the House of Representatives. But my general impression in traveling around the country is that Mr. Wallace has peaked in most areas of the country. And the surveys and the polls seem to indicate that. I suspect there will not be much of a change in public sentiment between now and November 5th. The American people have pretty well made up their mind that they want a change, and they know that the only real way to get a change and to get new leadership in the White House is to vote for Dick Nixon, because a vote for any third-party candidate might very well have the effect of helping to put Hubert Humphrey in the White House, and not many people are very enthusiastic about that.
Much controversy has been generated over the machines that are being put together here. They're the punch card voting machines that an estimated 160,000 Dallas County voters will be using on November the 5th. Joe Perry, who is Executive Vice President of Data Media, the company that manufactures these machines, is here in Dallas with many of his assistants to supervise in the operation and putting together of the machines. I asked Mr. Perry about several questions that are uppermost in the voters' minds today. Do have a spot in there for a straight party ticket. The individual punches the straight party ticket, but later on down in the ballot decides to vote for some Republicans or for some Democrats on the other side. What happens then?
Okay, very simply with our system, Carl. Let's take again, and I'll keep with the party names. If you have a straight Democratic Party vote, and then they jump over and vote for some Republicans, all Democrats will be picked up, with the exception of the ones that they jumped over and voted for on the Republican side. In other words, every Democrat gets a vote, with the exception of, again, the Republicans they jumped over.
You've been holding meetings for the precinct workers and also for the general public. Have those meetings sort of dispelled a lot of the misunderstandings that we had on the voting machines?
Carl, absolutely, and I don't mean to say that as quickly as I may have, but we had a workers meeting on October 8th, Tuesday evening, where we had a turnout that exceeded over 200 people. And I was pleasantly surprised. After the meeting, people came up to us. They said, gosh, what's all the hullabaloo? It's a rather simple system. Several folks come over and they said, what precinct am I in? Can I have the machines? And we said, gosh, you haven't been selected by Commissioner's Court in your precinct. And one gal said, oh, come on, Mr. Perry, I'd really like to have some of those devices. So I think we can honestly say that it's just been tremendous acceptance here.
More meetings are scheduled next week to acquaint the voters with the operation of these machines. If all goes as the data media people claim, the only problem we'll have come election time is who to vote for. Carl Mayo, Channel 8 News.
The other day on a fence someplace. Where it was, Duluth or someplace. Come on, get out of the park with us here. You folks are coming down to the park, aren't you?
It was billed as a major address, but actually sounded like the standard George Wallace campaign talk. Nonetheless, the people here were with him, as you can tell by their response to various remarks.
Our movement is not a sectional movement. It's not spotty. We have this sort of support throughout the length and breadth of the United States. So don't think that we are just strong in this great region of the country. But I do want to tell you this, that our region of the country, including Texas and the other 16 states of the border region and of the South, have 177 electoral votes. And one reason we're going to carry all 17 of these states, as that the leaders of both national parties in the last 75 years have looked down their nose at Texans and Alabamians and Georgians and North Carolinians and called us rednecks. They had a geographical bias and prejudice against us. But I want to tell you this much, as I told them in Massachusetts, there may be lots of rednecks in Texas and Alabama. If you mean by that, people who don't mind making an honest living by working all day in the sun.
As you can hear, these people clearly want Wallace. There was a very small group in this crowd that did not want Wallace. They were the hecklers who have followed him everywhere.